Welcome back to Petman Garage. Today we are working on a Toyota Sienna. Not usually my cup of tea, but we'll see what we can do with it. It's a hybrid. I guess they're all hybrids. But this is a base model and doesn't come with the factory liftgate, power liftgate. So you have a electronic release and then just standard gas struts. And the customer bought a aftermarket, I believe it's Chinese kit that's supposed to retrofit and convert to power liftgate, mimicking off of the factory door lock signals. So we're going to get into installing this. Instructions say 2 to 3 hours. We'll see how long that actually takes. I have a feeling it might take a little bit more than that, but since there's a lot of interior work and a lot of running wires, so we'll see how this goes, and I'll bring y'all along for the ride. Alright, so I got the box opened up and I thumbed through the instructions. Kind of about what I expected to see, but nothing crazy. We'll get into opening the parts up here in a little bit. We'll start pulling the interior out. And basically this back wall comes out, the floor trim, the gutter trim along the floor on both fronts, part of the dash, and then all the tail door, tailgate trim comes off as well. On the tail door, there's a little slot on this top corner of this trim, and you can get up in there with a trim tool or screwdriver or whatever and pry this off. Kind of work your way around. Comes off pretty easily. That'll gain us access to our trim panel screws for the whole trim panel. I've already removed the 10 millimeters across the back on the latch, and then we'll pull those silver 10s we just exposed and see what comes off next. Alright, so the main interior, after you pull those 2 silver screws, the main body panel just comes off with a bunch of clips. Start on the front edge, work your way across, and then pull the back edge down after that. It's pretty simple. Now the interior quarter panel, being a base model, does not have the spare tire in it, so yours should look a little bit different than the instructions show. These have to come off, and just go with the trim tool in sideways here and twist, and it'll help release those clips. And then I'll probably pull my 10s off the strap part of it, and then we'll figure out what else we need to pull off to get the quarter panel out, or at least loose. And now this back wall just comes off with some clips. When I was prying on them, sometimes they stay in the body, so if that happens, you just need to take a trim clip behind the head of the clip, pop it out, and then install it back onto the slotted section of the trim panel. So this trim panel just lifts up. It is kind of hooked a little bit on the back side, so you kind of want to lift on outside and then kind of roll it up and then pull it out. The sliding door is bolted down with a 10 millimeter there, and you got to unplug it because all this runs through the opening of this trim panel, so that's a little annoying. And you have to unbolt both the bottom seat belts are 14 millimeters, and then I think we're ready. Oh, there's a electrical connection here. This is not a trim piece, this is some sort of sensor. So I have to get this guy back in there a little bit better, but should be just about ready to pull the trim panel all the way off. Alright, so the trim panel is currently laying off. You do also have to remove this guy, which is the fuel door manual release. It was just a little plastic trim clip that is held on here. So I just kind of leaned it a little bit and then pulled it off with my fingers. And we should be ready to pull this clear out of the car. So one of the first steps is replacing the hinge or strut brackets, these guys here. So we'll do one at a time, and those are located here, and it says use their screws and their brackets, so that'll be the next step we're after here. I'm going to try to find something to support the weight of the tailgate because we're going to have nothing holding it up when we start taking the stuff apart. So I'm probably trying to find a long 2x4 or something like that. And then to remove these struts, you just get a trim tool or screwdriver in behind here, and this will release the spring. You kind of walk the spring forward or down, whatever you want to call that. In a position like that, and then the strut itself will just pop off. I'm going to set down the camera so I can do that two-handed, make sure I don't drop the tail door, but I do have it supported with a 1x1 right now. Okay, got both my struts hanging. That was a little sketchy. I'm glad I put down the camera for that, because as soon as I put my hand on the tail door, I knocked my 1x1 out, and then about the same time I was pulling on the strut, then suddenly there was nothing holding the tail door up at all except for me. So little sketchy, but we got her done. I'm going to show you another trick on these tail door struts. So once you get one of them off, if you kind of walk it away from it rotationally, so it's designed to clip here, but if you work the strut away from it in a gentle fashion, you can actually get it to pop off the ball without taking the clip off. Just makes life a little easier on that. Swapping the brackets, those are going to be 10 millimeters that are on the factory ones, and then there's going to be an Allen millimeter, a 4 millimeter Allen on the new ones. I'm going to tighten them down by hands because I just do not trust Allens to hold torque, especially Chinese versions. It's kind of a little stuck in place. Looks like there's some sort of body seal there, so we'll probably try to transfer as much of that off as we can, so we don't create any problems. Alright, well, lesson learned on that one. Installing the new struts, they are actually different left and right. They're not really clearly marked on the bag, except for one little L or one little R in the part number. So I'm going to show you what you're looking for, how to distinguish the two. So the harness part should come over the pivot point, so when you have it fully installed, the harness should be on the top side. So if you're hanging them first like I did, then you want that facing forward on both sides. And the other way to tell too is the driver's side, or sorry, passenger side has a much longer harness than the driver's side does for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a routing difference there, but it's about a foot longer. So we're gonna get these installed correctly and then proceed from there. And then it says to route through the factory hole. It's not really very clear where that is, but there's a big body grommet right here, and one on the other side. I'm gonna have to get a trim tool and pry those off. So I expected that to be a little piece of rubber, but it's actually a piece of plastic. It is actually a little bit easier on the prying portion of it. If you also reach in from back here with your hand, you can kind of push on it at the same time. That'll help dislodge it a little bit easier. Alright, so next is replacing the door latch. I've already got the old one completely removed, and these 3 plastic screws are going to need to come out because that's where the factory screws go in. So we'll get these removed with the Phillips and install it into the car. So next we're going to tear into the small harness, which is in a separate bag. This is going to be the tail door harness, and we'll get it unwrapped and start installing it. Alright, so these instructions are not very good at this point, but we'll figure this out together. So the factory harness has the original door latch connector. So let me get this out of the way. has the original door latch connector. We're going to plug into that guy. And then the kit has a motor, power and ground, small black connector. And then a new door latch connector is a white one. And then the instructions say connect or clip blue wire. And locate original trunk switch connector. Okay, so this loose pink wire here with the cute little wire tap on it is going to be connected to our lift gate release button from, exterior release button is going to be this blue wire here. We're going to tap into that with our little loose pink wire. Woo. So this guy will get clipped on here. I may end up actually soldering that because I don't know that I trust this little cheesy little dude, but that's the intention, is to clip that guy in to that blue wire there. So I thought at first I had an error with my kit because I have two switches, but apparently one goes up into the dash and the other one's going to go into the blank plug here. So we're going to have to get the blank plug removed, get the switch installed, and then it should plug into the green connector on our tailgate harness. So that blank plug, just gently pry out with the trim tool. I found it easier to go ahead and run the green harness through the tail door first before trying to plug it in, just based off the location in the car. It's kind of a weird spot to be in, and then we're just going to pop that dude back in there. Excellent. Now the instructions are going to show you to run the power up to the tail door, and that is a step you need to do, but I don't think I want to start with doing that. The reason I don't want to start with doing that is if I need to route something along the body and I need to go, under a seatbelt connector, or I don't know, whatever, I think it's going to be easier to route this side than it is to be routing all of this through stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting to the dash side of it, removing trim to get to the dash, and we'll work on starting that harness and then work our way all the way to the back, and that way our routing is done, and this is the last part up here. Alright, so this is exactly what I was talking about. So I got my trim panels removed here. This guy just pulls up and then again kind of slides out the back side, and then the kick panel, there's a plastic nut holding on up here by the dead pedal, and then this guy just pulls off this way. But basically I'm going to need to connect all this stuff up in here somewhere around to this area. We're going to start running this harness down the length of the body. So I'll probably go ahead and try to tuck it into this factory tray if possible. Might have to get a screwdriver or a second hand here. But we're going to run along here, and when we run through this pillar, I don't really want to have to pull the whole trim completely off if possible, because usually that just makes more work. So since we're running the small connection, this guy, to the back, we should be able to just kind of thread it along through here and have it pop out the backside. At least that's the hope. And it'll be a lot easier to pass this guy through than it will be to pass all that loose bundle there. Ran into the first snag on the wiring in the kick panel area here, so I've got, sorry, let me get this out of the way. We're supposed to connect to the loose orange wire is supposed to connect to the big red wire. I went ahead and stripped it, and I still can't get the crimper to actually crimp on there because it's so small. So without completely destroying the factory wiring, I don't feel comfortable using this, so I'm going to just cut it off and solder my own lead on there. or I may try and use a different tap that's a larger, it's set up for larger wires. So this style is designed to accommodate a little bit larger wiring here, and should be able to just get this guy squeezed in place. Maybe. Let me try that two-handed real quick. Hang on. So the instructions talk about connecting power and ground for the relay. It doesn't really show where and how we're supposed to connect them, so I'm going to put a ring terminal, or I put a ring terminal on the ground wire, and then we're going to just piggyback off of the factory ground right here in the A-pillar. And then I believe we can get power, main 12-volt power off of the interior fuse box on the main power lug there. I'm going to work on digging into that next. All right, so before we connect our main power wire to the 12-volt battery source, we're going to want to wire the rest of the tailgate up. So we're going to jump back into the back of the car again. On my way back there, I'm going to work on moving some of my extra slack, which is not very much, across to the back as I go. And then we'll finish routing this as well. Like that. Now, I've got it. Jump in here. I have it routed and tucked along with the main body harness. I have it run through the same bulkhead plastic housing as well. Just that's where factory wants their wires to go, where they will be safe, secure, out of the way. So we're going to mimic and attach as much as possible to all this good stuff and run it across the back. Alright, so starting work on tailgate wiring in here, and to remove this from the body of the tailgate, you need to go through this window and then pry down on these little clips. So you see here there's a little tab in that window. It's super hard to see in the vehicle with it installed, but that's what you're after. There should be one on each corner, two here, two over here. They're not the easiest thing to get out, but we're going to run the harness through this grommet and then through the side of the connector area where we're able to get through. So I'm going to work on doing that. Now I'm going to use a wire pulling device, which is basically just a metal wire with a spring on it that helps hold on to wires and pull them through. So I already have that guy run through my rubber seal here. You can use a coat hanger or something similar. Just be really careful not to puncture your grommet anywhere, because you don't want to create any water leaks. That's the whole point of having that boot, is having water protection. So we're going to gently pull this guy through, and once we get on the other side of the grommet here, then we can go through here like we talked about, and then into the tail door. Well, I got incredibly lucky with pulling wire. So I got it through my grommet, through my connector body, and I went ahead and left it set up, and I pulled it along this whole length all in one shot, and then now I'm up here ready to pull through. So that worked out really nicely. So that's my plan. I'm going to continue to gently pull towards the where the module will be installed in the tailgate here. So now that my tail door harness is run at least through the body of the tail door, I may still route it differently, but we're going to build out the connector, and in the instructions they give you more wires than what you actually have, and then they tell you if you don't have it, then leave it blank. The wires are numbered for the most part. I think you got a 4 here, you got a 5 back there in the back, 7, 1, except for some reason my black one was labeled in Chinese, so it's a little strange, but anyways, that'll go in this number 6 spot, I believe it is. Yeah, number 6 spot here, and I'm going to show you how to install these. So there's a on the body of the connector, there's kind of like two teeth that point down. You need to line those up so they go, let me see, line them up so they go here. Okay. So you lining the teeth up so they match in the bottom of the connector there, like that. And then it slides in. Now when you get to about here, you kind of need a little bit more force to push it down, and then they give you this little green pick tool, and if you push on the side of the connector, my camera will focus, so one side of the pin has wires run through it, the other side is kind of a blank oval. If you push the pin connector in that spot, that, and it'll help push that in until it latches. You'll hear a little soft click, and you can do a gentle pull on back pull on the wire, make sure it actually latched, but you should hear a little click sound. And we should be just about done with this wiring. Then we'll put that onto our module and its location. Alright, so I got it plugged in. For some reason it decided to beep at me when I plugged it in, so that was a little strange. And then we're going to connect our big body ground somewhere up here in the tail door. Well, I guess that's what I get for being lucky the first time with wiring pulling. I didn't realize that the ground wire that is on this new connector we built is actually supposed to be grounded here on the body of the tailgate. So I just ran the wire pulling back through again. We'll get this guy connected to our puller, and then we'll pull it so we can ground it over here. So got my ground connection done. As a side note, this is the factory ground splice, so you technically could have the install kit could have had some, there are 2 blank pins here. You could have just went boop boop and popped 2 pins in there, and it would have been just like a factory ground splice. And then they would have saved 6 or so feet of wire, 5 or 6 feet worth of wiring, as well as the install of pulling that around. But anyways, we're going to keep working on this. We're going to get all this kind of tidied up. I'm not going to fully install it yet. I want to just kind of get it up and secured out of the way so we can do a test run on this door as soon as we can before we put all of the trim back in. So the instructions show to mount it here with their supplied hardware, and you should have a flat bolt that goes in the top side of the bracket, and then the nut comes up on the bottom side, and then just a single bolt is all it shows to do that. Now if I reach in here and I can flick the bracket on this side where it's unsupported, so I'm just going to take a piece of double-sided adhesive foam and just kind of stick it up in there, or single-sided adhesive I should say. We're going to stick it up in here and attach it to the bracket in that location. So went ahead and test fit where that foam's going to sit. Just wanted to show you what that looks like, show you the bracket with the screw in it, all that good stuff. So we'll get that reinstalled again. Now to get the module actually inserted into the hole, I ended up scooting that bolt over to center line on that bracket, but I tucked the harness. I went ahead and plugged the module onto the bracket and tucked the harnesses and everything, but I also pulled some of the factory harness connectors loose, just to help get enough slack, because they kind of block this opening right here. So went ahead and got all that moved, and then the kit wants you to go where this guy is, so I will probably end up just seeing if it'll fit in another hole, or maybe figure out if I can drill a spot of plastic out of the way, maybe over here. Might be able to reach over here somewhere. That'd be a good spot right here. I'm gonna drill a little hole right there and get this guy to sit out of the way. Again, we don't want to have any new rattles. Well, got everything kind of tidied up, tucked up out of the way. Still need to come back and trim some zip ties and stuff, but that's looking pretty nice for an aftermarket kit. It installed pretty decently inside. So we're going to get back to the front and we're going to connect the main power connection, and then we should be ready to do a test fire. All right, we'll give this thing a shot and see how this goes. And not bad. So that part works correctly. We will have to go through and check the remote, because supposedly you're supposed to be able to hit the unlock button 3 times and then it's supposed to work. I don't know if that's going to need any calibrations or anything, but we'll try that out as well. But electrically, everything looks like it's pretty happy, so that's good. Okay, so alright, so I got the illumination attached. It's the loose gray wire in the harness, and in basically any of these switches that has in the what I would assume would be the number 1 pin is like a grayish color with a green stripe is illumination. So with that on, with the headlights on now, we should have our switches should be backlit. Should be kind of hard to see there, but anyways, so the other part of this that I talked about before was this accessory wire. I'm to be honest with you, I'm not sure why that's even attached to anything, because it doesn't show this in the diagram at all, and it goes to the separate little relay here, but the vehicle functions without this attached, so I'm not 100% sure that we even really need it, but I'm gonna keep doing a little bit more research and figure out if it's something I really need to play with or not. But I figured with the fuses that we tapped, you have one that's ignition and one that's constant, it's probably pulling what it's supposed to be pulling, but I don't understand the purpose of this wire. So we'll do some more digging and figure out what's going on with that.